Life is like a box of chocolates. A proverb of King Solomon? No, Forrest Gump. And you knew that. And it's great imagery for the idea of variety. You reach your hand into a box of assorted chocolates, and every time you pull it out, it's a different chocolate taste than the time before. Or imagine a jar of jelly beans, all different colors, and every time you reach in, you pull out a different color than the time before. That's a good way to imagine the book of Proverbs. Because in the book of Proverbs, you've got this mix of proverbs. They're not put together all talking about the same thing. It's talking about different things. And every time you reach in, you pull out something different than the last time. Proverbs of Solomon are like a box of chocolate or a jar of jelly beans. Now, what I chose to do was to reach into the jar of Proverbs and pull out all the red jelly beans, the proverbs that talk about the same thing, and let them teach us a lesson. And then I moved to the yellows and the greens and the purples. I approached the book systematically. But since Solomon prefers a random mix where you never know what's coming next, this lesson will be what Solomon had in mind, a total random mix of proverbs. Because we've reached our final lesson in the series on the wisdom of Solomon. New series begins next week. And there's many, many more proverbs yet to go. Don't have time for them all. So I'm just going to reach in the jar, toss a few nuggets your direction, in no particular order, and we'll run until the 10 minutes runs out. So here we go. Try this proverb. Like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel and it's not their own. In other words, mind your own business. Solomon says, don't try to go around fixing everybody else's problems. A lot of us do well if we can just take care of our own situation. But don't try to fix other people's problems, because you never know who's going to snap back at you for sticking your nose in their business. How about this one? What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. In other words, some things just can't be fixed. Now, of course, there are many things in life that can be corrected, and we try to make them right as best we can, but we need to learn to recognize the things in life that just can't be fixed. And the more you try, the more you just waste your time and energy and create a lot of worry and anxiety that was a waste. Take, for example, when you've got a project to do, a job to get done, and time runs out. Well, when time runs out, it's over, whether you like it or not. Or take something that's very valuable and you broke it. Now, once you break it, you can super glue it all you want, but the original value has been diminished and you can't put the value back into it. Here's what Solomon really has in mind. Rumors. You tell a story about someone and it makes them look bad, only later to find out it wasn't actually true. Now, you can apologize, you can try to take it back, but folks, once you start a rumor, you can't take it back. Once people hear something, they can't unhear it, and it often colors the way they think about that person. Here's a word to the wise. Don't do that. Don't put things out there that you can't take back. You need to figure out, how do I deal with life and deal with it the best I can without creating additional troubles that I got to try to fix, and they can't be fixed. How about this one? Casting the lot settles disputes and keeps strong opponents apart. In other words, there comes a time to stop debating and call for a vote. You know what happens? We're in a discussion, trying to make a decision, and we don't agree. It could be at work, it could be at church, it could be at home with the family. And what often happens is we keep on arguing because I want to persuade you to come to my side. You're trying to persuade me to come to your side. Listen, at some point, just call it quits. No more arguing, no more discussion. Let's just put it to a vote. That's what Solomon's saying. Let's cast the lots and let's take whatever the vote turns out to be. Let the chips fall where they may. There's a time to just simply bring it to a conclusion. And for decisions that really don't matter at all, I'd say just flip a coin and get it over with. Try this one. If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it, and you'll vomit. In other words, moderation. Moderation in all things. Sometimes we tell ourselves, if a little bit is good, and it was tasty, I bet a whole lot more would be even better. No, not necessarily. A little bit of salt on the mashed potatoes, that's good. Unscrew that cap and pour some more, not so good. A Krispy Kreme donut, love those things. A second one, I might talk myself into it. By the time I get number 12, number 20, my stomach says way too much sweet. That's what Solomon says about honey. Or listen to this. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. too much of you, and your neighbor will hate you. In other words, you need to know when to back off and give people some space. You ever heard the expression, fish and company stink after 3 days? You don't want to be fish or company that stinks. You got to be aware of when you've been there a little too much. You've been just a little too present, and you need to be aware when you're a nuisance, when you're becoming annoying. Try this one. It's no good. It's no good, says the buyer. And then off they go, and they boast about their purchase. I call that the yard sale proverb. You get the idea. You're looking at an item, and the guy says, hey, you want to buy it? Well, I don't know. And they drop the price. They drop the price. And the more you stall, the more they drop, and the more you haggle, and at some point, you get it. And then you go home and you talk about the great deal you got. Now, that's actually the way they did business all the time back in Solomon's day. And Solomon says, a little bit of haggling for a price, oh, that's a good thing. It's more than just a good thing. It's a fun thing. It's a satisfying thing. Because there is a sweet satisfaction to finding a good deal and a bargain. It was worth the effort, it saved you money, and it feels good. Remember that proverb next time on a Saturday morning you're out yard selling. Now, talk about this one. The simple-minded believe anything, but the prudent will give thought to their steps. You know what he's saying? Don't be gullible. Unfortunately, that catches up with any of us at any time, where we hear something, next thing you know, we're repeating it, took it at face value without questioning, without checking the facts. We just repeat it because I heard it from so-and-so. For example, I heard it on CNN, or if you prefer, I heard it on Fox News. Pick your poison, but we'll hear it, we repeat it like it's the truth, without actually checking it out. Or, how about this? I read it on the internet. It was posted in Facebook. In fact, it was shared 1 million times, but folks, you know that doesn't make it true. Solomon advises us, learn how to look things up yourself. And if you don't have the time or the know-how, at least, I would say, compare notes with somebody you actually know and not some anonymous guy posting, and compare notes to that person you know and really trust to tell you whether or not this looks true. How about this one? Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. I call that one the Goody two-shoe rule. In other words, Solomon says, I want you to be a do-gooder. Now, the idea there is of someone who walks the straight and narrow. They don't venture to the right or to the left. They just walk the straight and narrow. Always black and white, follow the rules. You can't get in much trouble when you do that. Now, you can't feel guilty. You haven't done anything wrong. You can't get caught. You haven't done anything wrong. No need to be embarrassed. You haven't done anything wrong. Solomon says that's what you ought to do. Now, I do know there's a downside to that, and that is people mock you. They smirk. They laugh about your boring life. Solomon says it's a smart life. Smart people are do-gooders. There's other proverbs that Solomon has. Let me give you one I think you can appreciate if you've got children and grandchildren. The righteous lead blameless lives. Blessed are their children after them. What he's saying is you need to be a positive role model for your kids, your children, your grandchildren. Set them a good example that they can follow. Be conscious that there are watching eyes at all times, even when you're not aware that they're there. And you be the role model. Whether you want to be or not, you be the role model they need to see. So give it your best shot, because their lives depend on it. And sometimes you want to tell them what is right, but all times you want to show them what is right by what you do. When Solomon is wrapping up the book of Proverbs, book of Ecclesiastes, he does come down to his final verse, his last words of wisdom that Solomon wrote. Listen to those words. Now that all has been heard, here is the conclusion of the matter. What did Solomon think was so important? I've saved it for the last, the best for last. Well, here it is. Fear God and keep his commandments, because that's the duty of all mankind. Fear God. Respect and awe and reverence for God, of respect for God's authority. And then keep his commandments. Discipline your life to do what God's word tells you to do. Let's put it together this way as our final word of wisdom. Of respect for God's authority and the discipline to do whatever God says. And that is the final word of wisdom that we receive from King Solomon.